Welcome back to CBS News. Detroit at noon. The family of heavy metal legend Ozzy Osbourne held a procession which went through his hometown when he passed in July. How can you make sure your final wishes are carried out? Joining us now to tell us more, legal expert and attorney Danielle Mayoras. Thanks for being back with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this is an interesting topic. Certainly gets your wheels turning. Nobody likes to think necessarily about their own mortality, but why is it important that we do so? And what was so interesting about Ozzy Osbourne's case here?
Well, it seems like Ozzy Osbourne had that public procession you were talking about, but he also had a private funeral where he was buried on his estate. And that kind of echoes what he had said publicly, because he said he didn't want to be cremated, he wanted to be buried, and he wanted his funeral to be a celebration of his life as opposed to, as he said, a moat fest. And so all of us can actually take control and plan for that by some of the laws that we have in Michigan.
How do we make sure our funeral and our burial wishes are honored?
There's a law that we have in Michigan where we can all appoint what's called a funeral representative and designate someone. And that person, if we do everything properly, gets to decide if we're cremated, if we're buried, what kind of funeral or services that we'll have.
Okay, what's the best way to go about designating that person? What's the process?
Ideally, you want to work with an attorney to do that, like an estate planning attorney, but you can also theoretically do it on your own. It needs to be in writing and signed and dated. You need to designate someone over the age of 18 who's legally competent, and we need to either have 2 witnesses or a notary on the document.
Okay, you said ideally you'd work with an attorney. What if you don't prepare that document?
If you don't do anything, like some other things in Michigan, the state has one waiting for you, but it may not actually reflect what you want. If we're married, our spouse would have priority to make that decision. And if we were not married, then it would be our kids. No kids, then it would be our parents, and so on. The issue with this is sometimes there's second or third marriage situations. The spouse may not necessarily do what the kids want or think should be done. So the best planning that we can do is actually to put our wishes in writing and designate who we want making those decisions.
Yeah, that's the last time you want any contention, especially among family members.
Yes.
What tips do you have for viewers when making these plans?
A few quick tips. The first is that if you do the document and you have any specific wishes about your funeral or burial or services, don't just designate someone. Actually put specific wishes and what you want in the document. The second tip is when you do the document, make sure your representative has a copy of it or knows where it's located. If not, it doesn't do anyone any good. And lastly, you always want to have an alternate on the document just in case something happens to the initial person that you designate.
Where can people find you if they want more information?
They can find me at our law firm at brmmlaw.com.
Perfect. Danielle, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle.